The texts that are designed for those who have gone beyond the pale of enlightenment, what we know as the Nididhyasana texts, are there to explain the experience and to assimilate the experience of enlightenment and awakening. And one of those texts is the Ashtavakra Gita. Now, I'm going to read to you a verse today from the Ashtavakra Gita, which actually explains a fundamental difference between the ordinary person, let's say before awakening or enlightenment, and the person who has gone beyond the pale of enlightenment, an enlightened sage, a guru, etc. And this is a very important verse in understanding just the fundamental difference in understanding the ultimate reality of the universe and the ultimate reality of your own nature, which we often get confused about and misinterpret or don't understand. And the Ashtavakra Gita is here to resolve any of that confusion so that we can have a deeper understanding on the path and also of how we should be, in some sense, orienting our thinking towards the nature of reality. And so without further ado, I will read to you this very interesting verse from the Ashtavakra Gita for all of us to meditate and contemplate upon. The ignorant person does not attain Brahman, for he desires to become it. The wise one certainly realizes the nature of the Supreme Brahman, even without desiring to do so. In this verse, we see an emphasis on desire, the difference between a sage and us mere mortals. And the desire itself is actually what impedes the process of assimilating the deeper teachings and also coming into harmony with Brahman, understanding your Atman, your undifferentiated consciousness within you and I, that is one, which is the ultimate Brahman. And so this gets in the way. Desire gets in the way. Now, why desire gets in the way for the ignorant person, as Ashtavakra says here, is because in desiring to know Brahman, you already imply that you are separate from Brahman. So see, it's very, very subtle, this trick that we play on ourselves, on our mind, when we resonate with the jiva, the ego, the personality, the identity. And so when we believe we are this jiva, we then desire to be one with Brahman as if there is some sort of separation. But from your true nature, your Atman, you could not be separate. You could never be separate. No matter what happens in your life, no matter what trials and tribulations you go through, on a personal level, you can still never be not one with Brahman. You are always one with Brahman. Your ultimate nature is Brahman itself. And so we play this trick on ourselves, especially on the spiritual path, because we feel we need to attain the goal. We feel we need to attain to the realization of Brahman. But that desire instantly means that you assume that you are separate from Brahman. In assuming we are separate from Brahman, this is actually a denial of your true nature. You are denying your true nature unconsciously, but you are doing it nevertheless. So as long as desire remains, we cannot come into the realization of Brahman. We cannot be it. We cannot have the experience of the great Mahavakya, Tat Vamasi, thou art that. We can't have that realization. We can't have that abidance in the self if we are desiring. Now, desire is always an obstacle in a lot of the Eastern traditions, no matter whether it is Hinduism, Buddhism, or Taoism. There's an emphasis on desire. And this is how subtle desire can be. Once we get to the last stage of our development, then desire still handicaps our understanding fully of the true nature of existence. Now, I said then the development as if we need to develop. On a jiva level, of course, we need to develop our personality, our mind, our ego, in a sense to fully assimilate the teachings. But as you go deeper and deeper on the path, you realize that that jiva actually never existed. So we have to understand that. We have to come back into resonance with the understanding that we have always been that. It's a trick of the mind, right? Because we always think that we're on this journey to somewhere. But the fact of the matter is, when we look into the teachings of non-dualism, particularly Advaita, then we realize that we need to end the search. It's the search itself that is always turning our head away from our ultimate nature. We're looking here and there, and we're not realizing that we are already it. Now, does that mean you give up your spiritual practice? That's not what I'm saying. Your spiritual practice is there to till the soil, so this understanding can be more embodied, particularly if your ego is very strong. And most of us who are born into this world have a strong ego, no matter whether we want to believe that or not. But that's why we till the soil with spiritual practice, so we can come into this great understanding. And then we can actually realize that, hey, wait up, I was already the self. I've always been the self. It's hard for someone to recognize that if they haven't tilled the soil with spiritual practice, even though there are some rare cases like Ramana Maharshi, for example. But most cases is we need to till the soil. Actually, in ancient India, you had to spend 12 years with a guru before the guru would allow you to leave the ashram. Now, do we have to wait 12 years? Of course, we don't have to wait 12 years. That was a mandate for the spiritual seekers back in the day, and it can still be good in the modern day as well. But when you come across these teachings, when you come across the Nididhyasana teachings and the Ashtavakra Gita, it's telling you to stop the search. You've been searching your whole life and you're wearing yourself out while searching. It's that desire that's really wearing you out. And the irony is, we have to eradicate this desire for freedom to attain freedom. This is actually what Swami Nitya Swarupananda actually says in his commentary. We have to eradicate desire for freedom to attain freedom. It seems paradoxical, doesn't it? But it's truly not, because freedom is our inalienable right as a human being. And spiritual freedom, what the Ashtavakra Gita is speaking about, is always ever present there. You are always truly free. But we go on this journey of self-discovery to try and free ourselves from bondage when we were never actually bound. It's only the jiva that believes that we are bound. We are always ever free. Freedom is our true nature. So the silliness of desire is we are desiring to attain freedom when freedom can never actually be attained, because freedom is your true nature. It's always been your true nature, and it will always be your true nature. You are fundamentally liberated. You don't have to be liberated in the next life. You are fundamentally liberated right now. And this is the higher teachings of the Nididhyasana text. You have always been liberated and will always be liberated. It's only the jiva that lives life after life after life to try and resolve its own karma, its own vasanas, its own samskaras. But you are fundamentally beneath all of that. It is that jiva that keeps us in this prison within our mind, where we think we have to resolve all of these karmas and vasanas and samskaras. And yes, some of them do need to be resolved, but you can never resolve all of your karmas. It's impossible. But what you can resolve is this wheel of samsara that you find yourself on in trying to overcome all karmas. Because once you realize the self, the Atman, which is Brahman, then from that perspective, you are karma free. It's only the jiva that is bound by karma. And so we are bound simply because we choose to be bound. We are not changing the way we are thinking about the ultimate reality. And this is what this verse is trying to do to you. It's trying to say that instead of desiring this or that, especially the ultimate, you need to reorient your thinking into understanding and fully embodying that you are already that. You need to have that way of thinking. And you don't want to let the ego slip under the door here and the ego to claim it is that. You need to begin to try and dissolve that ego so that you can actually truly embody that ultimate experience. And that's what this verse in the Ashtavakra Gita is pointing us to. Embodying that true freedom that we really are, which is our Atman, which is identical with Brahman. And so desire is only an obstacle into that full realization that you are already that right now. Shanti, shanti, shanti.